So this presentation, I basically designed, when we talked about this, I said, you know, I only, traditionally, when I bring on new sales people in this business, I only hire people with no experience in the industry. Now I do that for a particular reason, but so when they come in, they don't know anything about credit card processing. So I've got to take them through the basics, enough so that they can go out on the street, look at a statement, and not be a deer in the headlights. But for those of you that are fairly new to the industry, I'd like to do a quick walk through memory lane because there's so much you can learn from history. And so let me just give a brief history of our business. Back in the 80s and 90s, we called it the heyday of credit card processing. This is when, right after, you know, we finally went to the terminals and people were pricing stuff. I remember in my seminar business, I was just happy to get a merchant account. So when a credit card processing person came to my company and said, you can have this terminal for $69 a month on a lease, okay, which it didn't even have a printer on it, I was so happy to sign that lease. And I didn't even know what my rates were. I was just happy for my business that I could have these seminars now and sell all these books and tapes in the back of the room and not have to call in the credit cards to my bank and run off the numbers. I had this machine to do this and this and this. So I was paying, you know, $65 and $69 a month. And we have a couple more tables, guys, and some chairs back here if you just want to bring those tables up and stuff. So I was a little off. There's 2 seats right here. There's 2 chairs right here. And then there's probably one we could probably fit. Oh, there's one right there.
Perfect.
God, it was right on. Unbelievable. And then in the late 90s, after the internet burst and the bubble burst, and there's some things, when I got into this business was the year 2000. And luckily I found CoCard, but during that time, things started to change. And the first thing I heard about this industry in the early 2000s was this thing called interchange pass-through. And I remember when I joined CoCard, there were members that have been in the business a long time. They were making on, you know, 400 basis points on tiered pricing, which I'm going to get to in a minute. And when they heard about this interchange pass-through, they basically said, I got to get out of the business. So I was just getting in the business, all excited to make money, and I have CoCard guys that I met that have been in business for 10, 15, 20 years saying, it's over, the sky's falling. And that was my first lesson in this business. I figured out there's 2 types of people that I meet in this business. The sky is falling people, and the optimists, okay? And because everything changes constantly, so when this change occurs, there's always 2 ways to look at it. You know, we're going to be crushed by this, or we're going to ride this way, figure out a way to make money on this. So I always divide in this business, I see 2 types of people. So when I joined, it was first interchange pass-through. It's over, our margins are gone, we might as well go get another job selling insurance. Some of the guys left. When I got in it, I happened to have the biggest year ever. Okay, what's that? So I embraced it. Next, I heard this thing in California called PayPal. There's this guy started this thing called, what's PayPal? Well, whatever it is, it's putting us out of business. Okay, it's over for us, this whole PayPal thing. And I said, really? And I remember the guy who told me that, he left, but I ended up having the best year ever after PayPal, and I was growing my business. And then I heard about this whole thing about this free terminals, okay? Because when, in the beginning, everyone in our business made money off of hardware and equipment. And so Total Merchant Services came out with this. We have a couple chairs. Can one of you guys grab a couple chairs for those ladies there on the table? And so I was off by 2. But, so all of a sudden you can't make any more money on equipment. And the internet, merchants can now go online and purchase a Nuri 2000 whatever for $200. There's no more money to be made on equipment. I can't lease anything, okay? Because at that time leasing was big. So once the equipment money's over, time to get in another business, go sell cards. Well, I know I was one that I leased more terminals after that. I had 1,000 leases that year. So that never ended. Then it was, what came next? You know, Square. Everyone told me when Square, oh, it's over now. Square's going to put us all out of business. Then it was the Durbin event. I remember regulation. Oh, regulation's coming. We got to go look for another career. The Durbin, I'm going to strangle that guy. He's going to kill us. Well, a lot of us made a lot of money from Durbin. We should be thanking that guy.
Yes.
Okay? Where's Scott Doe? Is he here? I call him Durbin Doe. Because right after that Durbin amendment, his residuals doubled. Okay? And so with everything, there's a lesson to be learned. And as this business evolves, as we have people from other industries getting in this business, there's always two ways to look at everything. You know, are you going to get crushed by the wave, or are you going to figure out a way to ride the wave? And sometimes you need to find a new surfboard. Sometimes you need to learn how to surf if you're going to ride that wave. So don't be afraid of change. So with that being said, as I mentioned before, I'm just going to go through a brief presentation. When I hire somebody, again, when I hire salespeople, I only hire people without industry experience. They have no knowledge what credit card processing is. So as a board, when we talked about this, I said, well, why don't I present the way I would present to one of my newer salespeople knows nothing about credit card processing. And so we put together this book. So I'm going to run you through in the next 60 minutes. We're going to be doing some exercises, but I am going to start with the basics. So I recognize there are many of you in the room that probably know more about this stuff than I do, but I'm walking through from a very basic level. Yes,
is this April 2016?
no, I don't know what, I think so, yeah. I could be wrong, I often am. Okay, so let's talk, when I talk to somebody, I always talk first about the players. And I think I can manage this, Jenny, I'll try. Okay, so who are all the players in our industry? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on everybody, but sometimes I have to explain to people what card issuers are and how that's a whole different side of the business than what we're in. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but we all know what card issuers are. Now, we may dibble-dabble in this a little bit. Okay, I know with my banks, my community banks, they often ask me, Dan, do you know a good card issuer for us, or debit cards? So I find out who the good card issuers are. There's another side of this business called prepaid, which I'm not going to get into. If you want to know more about that, talk to Milburn Morris. But I explain how they make money. They make money off the card holders, but that's not our side of the business, obviously. Then I talk about what are card associations. So if somebody doesn't know anything about credit cards, I always say, okay, you have MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover. In our business, we call those card associations. How does the card association, how does Visa, who is a publicly traded company and they make all these billions of dollars, how do they make their money? Well, they mostly make it off of this thing called interchange from the merchants. They make their money from the merchant interchange. We all know that. So then I say, what is a sponsor bank? Okay, well, I explain that you have to have, you know, the card issuers, there's a connection between these sponsor banks and the processors that I'll get to in a minute. But sponsor banks, they have what is called a BIN and an ICA. So at all of our processors with TransFirst, with First Data that we use, they have to have this sponsor bank. You can't become a processor without having a sponsored bank with worth billions of dollars of backup. So where do they make their money? They make their money off this BIN from the processors and these BIN and ICA fees, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't really dive into the sponsor bank. But when you look at all the websites, all the ISOs, you can look down and see Wells Fargo, the sponsor banks, okay? It goes from us to the processor to the sponsor bank, okay? Now let's talk about the processors. So what processors do, obviously they process the transaction. And when I hire a new rep who knows nothing about credit card processing, I draw a little map on the board and I say, okay, somebody walks in, they swipe a credit card, that machine or that device or that gateway, it dials directly to the processor. Then the processor's on the network, it goes here, gets the approval, goes back, and I kind of explain how money then goes in the merchant's bank account. And I do the same thing when I meet with my banks. If any of you have a relationship with community banks, I do these mini seminars. It's just nice to show them how credit card processing works and who the players are in the business, how they make money. Processors make their income from merchant fees and margins above that interchange, okay? That's the processors. That's who we negotiate with. Now, processors have usually what is called these platforms. So often, for those of you who are new, you'll hear this word called platform. What's a platform? Well, there is what we call a front end, and then there's a back end. The front end is the front end of the transaction, right? The back end is basically the back end of the transaction, but the clearing, okay? So when you hear these different things like TSIS, Omaha, North, Bypass, these are what is called platforms. And can somebody give me a better definition of the reason why, what do these various platforms do? And when you want to become a processor, the big thing for moving from what we call a super ISO that I'll get to in a minute, and an actual processor is that you own your own platforms. So somebody like, and I'll get to wholesalers in a minute, when you own your own platform as a processor, your value as a company goes way up. So the processors we process with, like First Data, they developed the technology with Omaha, North, Bypass, another one called Nashville. And I'm not going to drill deep on this. I'll leave that up to Richard. But just so you know these words and this language, that what platform do you use? Because there are certain integrations that only work with this platform. There are certain technologies that might only work with that platform. Then we have registered ISOs. ISO standing for Independent Sales Organization. Priority Pay, CoCard, Total Merchant Systems. iPayment is, well,
I just, for a lot of these new guys to talk down there, I think for them, deciding if they want to transfer to First Data, it's important for them sometimes to do their homework ahead of time to see, like you exactly said, what
technologies, what type of reporting. You know, some platforms have real-time report, like instant, you can get there and get the data. It's real important for your merchants to see their transactions like within an hour or even real time. Some of this technology with the platforms, you can't see your batch for a day later, things like that.
Yeah, well, make sure they find out what platform it actually works on before they board somebody with, say, transfers, and they find out after they are approved that you have to go down to First Data because it doesn't work on that platform.
So we're in this ISO arena, okay? There's two types of ISOs, I'll get there in a second. So these ISOs make their money off, obviously they make their money off the margins and the buy rates from the processors. So the processors make a little bit of margin from the interchange and other fees, and then we mark it up, obviously. With these registered ISOs, you have two types. You have wholesalers and retailers. CoCard is considered a retail ISO. What's the difference? A wholesale ISO, the number one thing they do is they take on risk. So they do their own underwriting. Basically what these people do, like iPayment systems and Priority Pay, they don't have their own platforms, they don't own their own platforms, but they like to operate and see themselves as a processor. They might even call themselves a processor, but really they're an ISO. But what they're doing is renting the platforms, in a lack of better words. They're renting by First Data their platforms, but First Data is just giving them the risk. There's no risk. So if you ever go to Priority Pay, like in Atlanta, which I toured, it's almost, they have security, they have underwriting. It's really different than a ISO like us. So why the benefit of these people is First Data is going to give them a better buy rate, okay? Because they're not taking risk. So there's more money to be made as a wholesaler. CoCard, we're what is called a retailer. The beauty of CoCard, and if you talk to anybody that's been around First Data for a while, who knows our contract with First Data, in essence, we have a wholesale contract, okay, without risk. We're considered a retailer, but with all the things in our agreement, such as portability, ownership, usually only wholesalers get ownership. Retail ISOs don't get ownership. CoCard negotiated, because of our collaborative negotiation skills, we don't hold risk. The reason we can't take risk and we haven't become one of these wholesalers is because we didn't want to jeopardize, you don't want to jeopardize your portfolio if one member does something that blows up. I can't I don't want it to cost me. We can't take risks. Okay, I can't risk one member screwing things up for everybody. So, but and almost we're probably a half a cent off, and maybe $1 off of our buy rates. So, and then same with pieces. So, anyways, that's the difference between ISOs, wholesalers, and retailers. Okay. Then there's other players. I mentioned PayPal, Square. There's aggregators. What's the best definition of an aggregator, Dalton?
Someone like a Square that charges a 1 point or 2.75 or 3.5 for non-swipe, and then they make the difference between the interchange and
right. But they aggregate.
They aggregate multiple.
They're like a clearinghouse.
They're like one
Clearinghouse.
Yeah, everything falls under one merchant.
So, yeah, everything falls under. They aggregate everything under one, and I'm not going to go into too much detail here. So that's what we something like a Square would be more like an aggregator.
Now, is PayPal now working on the Discover Card network? Is that what it's working as, like the new interchange we got?
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Oh boy, I got to get out of business now. Okay, so anyways, that's what I just kind of like to do a quick overview of all the players in a nutshell, what they do, how they make their money. So let's get to the meat of the subject here. Let's talk about the various pricing models. And again, I'm speaking at a very low level here, but I'm going to basically touch on 3 areas. There are 3 main programs. When you look at these statements and when you're out there pricing, you're going to see 3 basic programs. We're going to talk about today Interchange Plus, which I looked at the studies here. Nearly 65% of the statements that you will see as a competitive nature, and again, industries are different. Brick and mortar is going to be higher versus B2B, but 65% of all the statements now are interchange plays. Now, when I got into business,
It's the opposite.
it was the opposite, right?
It was all tiered.
Yeah, it was all tiered, so we'll get to tiered. Right now, tiered is still a factor. Nearly 2 to 3% of, or out of 10 statements, you're still going to see 2 to 3 tiered programs. Some industries it's higher, some areas of the country it's going to be higher. Okay, but in general, this is the pie. And then we have something that was created as sort of a hybrid. When a lot of people that were doing tiered pricing, they didn't want to really go to interchange, but they needed to look like interchange, okay, appear like interchange, but they're still making some pretty big margins on we'll get into, it's called ERR, back bill, there's another name for this. Enhanced
bill back.
Enhanced bill back. And we'll get into that a little bit, just so you know. So these are basically the 3 types of pricing models that you're going to see in these books that we're going to go through here today. Let's first start with tiered pricing, okay? In tiered pricing, you basically have what in the industry we call qualified, mid-qualified, non-qualified. And it used to be that was the 3. Then they separated debit. So when you look at these statements, you're going to see qualified debit, non-qualified debit, and then mid-qualified, non-qualified. So what this is that in the beginning, they took these interchange buckets, all these 200 buckets, and they said that's way too confusing for the merchant. We can't put 200 interchange categories on a merchant statement. Let's bundle those all in to 3 groups. The less risk ones, the swipe. So when I got into the business, and by the way, when I started in 2000 and getting in this business, I knew nothing about the business. Luckily, I found CoCard out of the gate, okay? And there are people who started CoCard.
And where'd you find him? On a plane. On a plane, right?
On a plane, no, in a hot tub. No.
That's what.
But all I knew was, somebody told me at CoCard, I needed to go out myself. They go, well, just do this. I go, do this. How do I fill out an application? I went to CoCard member, send me one of your applications filled out. And it just so happened to be an application that had tiered pricing of, qualified rate of 1.69, mid-qual of 2.5, non-qual of 3.2. So I told all my salespeople, that's our rates, that's what we went out. That year, so that first year, we go, let's have a conference and let's have awards. And we said, well, who had the award? It was our first CoCard conference. I think we had 25 people. My first year in CoCard, I did 15,
was that Seattle?
Yeah, 1,500 applications, the next one right after Seattle. So I got this, and the Stevens, we had this #1 top office that sent me that app, you know, and I just clipped it. So I did 1,500 new applications my first year in the business without any knowing anything about pricing, just by putting those 3 rates in on everything. And I remember after that, I go, what's interchange? A year into it. Okay, so just give you a little background there. So traditionally, that is what we're going to talk about when you look at these statements and when we price this out. So they bundle, they take all the swipe. I always thought qualified was swipe, mid-qualified was key, non-qualified was key without address verification or zip code or a corporate credit card.
It's also consumer cards.
And consumer cards, yeah. So I always thought swipes qualified, and then when reward cards came out, they came up with this new category, because then we used to have a lot of qualified swipe, but then you could have swipe, but if there was air miles attached back when they had rewards, that fell down to mid-qual. So all my qualified stuff eventually ended up, even if it was swipe, ended up in mid-qual, and my income went up.
Well, and NPC didn't really have a mid-qual on mail order.
Right.
So you put it on there and it didn't really qualify, so you got non-qual and qual.
And that's a good point. When I signed up, we had an agreement with NPC, National Processing Company, and at that time, they wouldn't even allow us to do an interchange plus pricing. So all we knew was tiered. That was it. There was one program, tiered pricing.
Correct.
Okay?
That's all it was.
And all of a sudden we started hearing about this interchange plus. Well, NPC, we didn't have it. Actually, that's what drove us over to First Data. Okay?
Actually, it was Payment Tech, right?
Payment Tech started it. Yep, so we got a deal with Payment Tech, and they started letting us do interchange plus.
And ERR.
And ERR, which I'll get to. So we said, we got to have another processor. And we had an exclusive with NPC at the time. So the first thing we did when our contract was up, we said, we got to get rid of this exclusivity, and because nobody's doing exclusive anymore. And that opened the door to go over to First Data. And the main reason was to get this interchange plus pricing so we could compete in the marketplace, okay? So we're gonna look at these statements and see how these price out, how you take a tiered statement. If you're doing interchange plus, we're gonna show you how you take tiered pricing and compare it to interchange plus pricing.
Again, just a quick question. Is there an actual real definition of what those really
Yes.
have to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And where do I find that, and how do
I know TransFirst does a really good job of this stuff, this basic definition, but I'm sure if you keyword search, what does tiered price, you'll find it on the internet. Wikipedia.
Well, wait a minute, the different, just so you know, by the way, First Data, by the way, has a number of different, you can tier prices a number of different ways. They've got about 12 different categories of how you want that tiered. But when I went to First Data early on, and I went to a training there, I had a very, very interesting, we were doing a pricing similar to this, and the trainer said something which stuck with me and made a lot of sense. Don't do tier pricing. Don't do tier pricing because you're showing them that big number on non-qualified, so that next sales rep that walks in there, say, see that 3.2% that you're paying? You shouldn't be paying it. They're recommending. So you're leaving yourself open. If you don't want to do interchange pass-through, then look at the ERR pricing. Because there in the ERR, now I can only speak for First Data, but
Now Richard's going to go over this in his
no, I'm actually not going to do that.
I should, because
Okay.
it's good stuff. We'll get you guys some calculators too. Okay, but that's a good point, Richard. You're right. There's different tiered pricings and there's different levels. And I remember when I went to tiered pricing at First Data, they called grids. And you had to do this. That was a nightmare. Let's keep going. So let's talk about that. The ERR backbill bill it's still doable today. How many in our room do something like this? ERR backbill. Neil, right? We don't.
Occasionally.
You used to.
Occasionally.
When needed.
Okay. So really what it is, it's marked up above interchange. Okay. So it's like so when we look, I think I have some in here. It's really meant so that competitors can't come in and figure out what your merchant is paying. It's really difficult to figure it out because what you see on the statement is the surcharges. Okay, all those downgrades, like when you key something in, they show up on the next month. So you'll see a statement, and you'll see April, you see a June statement, but it'll say April, keyed in, like a surcharge. And you'll only see a dollar amount. There's no rates, there's no fees, you don't know how many transactions it is. So it's really almost impossible to do a really good analysis and figuring out, and I'll go to what I do in those situations. You need to get 2 or 3 months and just do an effective rate and get them off that program if you can. So I compete against that. Eventually you figure out, it's kind of tough to do, but.
You can actually calculate it, get 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, if you have 2 or 3 months, you can calculate it based on effective rates and everything else. And this Pegasus tool is going to help us with that, because what the Pegasus tool is going to do, and I've been working with Pegasus on this, and thank God Transfirst has partnered with us on this. Transfirst gave us the data that we needed, okay, on their whole, not just CoCard. We negotiated with Transfirst to be able to give CoCard the actual data on every SIC code and card type in that code. So if you have a fine dining restaurant, because if you look at SIC code 58, dining and eating establishment, then you go deeper in, there's all quick service, there's all fine dining, okay? We're gonna dissect that, and we know that a restaurant with an average ticket of $50, okay, we know exactly what that card mix is. How much is debit, how much is reward, and so we'll be able to plug that in, and then we'll be able to do a cost comparison. And so the combination of what Pegasus and Rick has been working on with the technology, combined with our relationship with Transfirst and them stepping up and giving us this data, I'm telling you, this is huge. This is going to allow, especially newer people just getting in right now, a tool that we can do pricing like that, and it's going to be dead on. So, but let's focus here on Interchange Plus a little bit, okay? We know what this means. It's the interchange and then the markup above interchange. So most of us in the room probably do some variation of this, you know, so it's basis points above interchange. There's always 3 categories to make money in this business. Actually 4, maybe even 5. How do we make money? We make money off of basically 5 areas. The basis points above interchange, the percentage of each transaction. So that's shrinking. We all know that's shrinking. It used to be 40 basis points. I could price stuff out at 50 basis points. Dalton.
I apologize.
And then, or 40, 20, now I'm down to pricing stuff out at 10. If you're a brick and mortar and you're in restaurants, okay, especially, if you're not in B2B, but if you're getting into 10 basis points. So what's happened is we've all had to figure out ways to make money in other places. Okay, so you have the percentage of the transaction. The other place we make money is on the transaction fee, the markup on per item fee. Okay, it used to be I was 20 cents, then I had to come down to 15 cents, then it was 10. Now I'm battling to keep it
5 and
around
7.
6 cents, 7 cents, 8 cents. Okay, above our buy rate. So I'm making a few pennies on every transaction. So there I make some money there. It used to be you made a lot of money, and now we're making a lot less. But how do we make, we gotta make money somewhere else. Well, you have the monthly statement fee, or online, whatever you call it. There's a flat month, there's usually a 1 flat monthly fee. Again, it used to be $15, then it was 10, then it was 8, now it's 5. You know, if you're not at $5 monthly, everyone else is at 5. So we gotta make money somewhere else. And then this great thing came in our business called PCI. Okay, well, here's a way we can make some good money. And it's regulated, and you have to do it. I mean, this is a gift. PCI for most of us was just a flat out gift, right? So, and it helped us survive. And the processor, so now when we go and negotiate our contracts, when we're shaving it down, then, well, luckily the processors now are in the same boat we are. They need to make money. We're beating them up and beating our price down, just to keep CoCard sending them the business. So they make money off of PCI. So this beautiful thing called PCI. And then the 5th thing is, a lot of us, there's breach insurance, there's these merchant club things, there's other ways you can make money outside of so I call them different types of an annual fee. Miscellaneous stuff, like some people might charge an annual fee. You know, we used to have a regulation fee, that regulated 10 thing for $2, like we have First Data. Well, we negotiated at transfers, they do $24 a year, they call it an admin fee. You know, so there's 5 different ways to make money in this business. So we're gonna look at these statements here and see how we can pick out interchange and how we do. This is actually the easiest thing to price. Especially you get a Heartland statement. I mean, you just go down to Heartland fees, oh, I see they're paying 20 basis points and 10 cents, and it's real simple.
I think it's your last slide.
Was that my last time?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, so, when I teach my salespeople, when I go out, even when I get statements, because I have, my bank rep sends me probably 3 or 4 statements a day saying, Dan, would you do this one for me? Dan, would you look at this one for me? So I have to look at, the first thing I always do is do an effective rate. How much are they effectively paying? That's the simple thing to do. Even my guys that are selling point of sale, because we close on our point of sale at the end, we get the hands of our statement. The first thing they do is they want to know what they're up against here. Okay? Instead of dissecting it, just take, all you do, you know, this is pretty simple. All you do is take the total volume divided by the fees. So you try to figure out what their total fees are, right? And you divide that up. So I'll give you an example. This is an SIC code 5012. It's a restaurant, okay? They do $50,000 a month. So I'll look at the statement. I look, okay, they did $50,000 with a $25 average ticket, okay? I know, so if you divide that up, okay, they're paying an effective rate. Their total fees were $1,550. So I divide that by 50,000. I come up with an overall effective rate of 3.1%. Okay? That tells me I got room. Because I know, from my experience, and we'll have this, when my guy and my rep knows, if you look at your portfolio now, I know restaurants in this category, if I price it out at 20 basis points and 10 cents, my overall effective rate on this is going to be about 2.7%. So, just by doing this within a matter of seconds, I know there's about a 30, 40 basis point margin here for me. So what we say to the merchant is, oh, I can save you some money here. So just by looking and seeing, when I see 3.1 effective, I know my threshold. You know, I know at basically on a restaurant this size at 8 basis points and 6 cents, okay? The effective rate's about 2.1, 2.2%. And you know that just by looking at your portfolio. You can look at your portfolio at that and say, okay, at pricing, and so it's really easy to determine that. So that's the quick, I always do a quick look just to see what I'm up against here. If they're already, if I do this and they're paying 2.1, 2.2 effective, I know this isn't a great account for me to go after. Yeah, Brett.
So like a business account, how would that SIC code differ from this?
Well, good question. Okay, it's really not that much different. Okay, the SIC doesn't matter. So let's just say this is a manufacturing company,
Yeah.
a wholesaler. Okay, they do 50,000, and actually the average, you know, the only reason I like to see that average ticket is because the per item thing, it can weight this.
Sure
Okay,
can.
so the lower the ticket, okay,
The
if
higher
it's
the rate.
you know, so if I see a high ticket manufacturer wholesale, so I know that the cents doesn't matter on a high ticket, but if it's a low $10, $15 ticket, I know that's what's going to vary here. Okay.
They're all keyed in. Those are going to be all keyed in transactions.
Keyed in transactions, a lot of corporate accounts. I know in a manufacturer, they're going to have a lot of corporate accounts. So I might see a 3.5 effective here.
Dan, the catch about that though is when you have a SunTrust or you have a Bank of America account and they're putting those fees from April on June statement, you
Right.
cannot do that.
No doubt. That was my point about the back bill.
Yes.
When you come across against the back bill, you need 2 or 3 months of
Yes.
statements in order
Just
to,
did the math.
consecutive in order to kind of do this. So I always just kind of, I like to see what I'm up against here. Just do, it's simple. Is this a potential, am I going to get, oh, this is great, or, oh, this is going to be tough. So anyways, that's what I train my guys to do when they're out in the field, see what they're up against. Okay, yeah, so this is what I do. I know my similar restaurants with this average ticket at 20 basis points, so I know I can save them $300. Without doing a detailed analysis, I know I'm gonna come in around for that merchant that I just showed you, an effective rate of 3.1, at 20 basis points and 10 cents, I'm gonna come in around 22.5 effective. So I can say, I think we can save you about $300 a month, but let me go back and do a detailed analysis. Because oftentimes I've heard that before. I have guys come here told me they're gonna save me $200 and I get my first statement and it's actually costing me money. So in our business, unfortunately, there's such a bad reputation, word of mouth doesn't mean anything. Yes, Mike?
Well, you're going to always get the customers saying someone else promised when they couldn't do it. We do a management agreement where we'll put in there, this is what you're going to get. We promise you as long as the processing doesn't change too much, as long as you don't go from 75% debit to 75% rewards card, this is where you're going to stay, this is where you're going to be. And we give them an out if it ever goes, if anything ever changes. But if I can walk into a nail salon, like you were saying, if it's in the bad part of town, 60% or more debit card. I know I can price it at 10 and 10 and get them.
Because you know that. The thing with Mike saying is you're going to get to know your industry. You're going to get to know your target. So when you walk in, like I know restaurants, and I know my target is not fine dining, but sit down restaurants with the average ticket between $25 and $35. Okay, so my reps kind of know at 20 basis points and 10 cents, we're at about 2.7%. So when they see a 3.1, in his industry it's all debit. He knows what his effect, where he's going to come in because it's mostly debit. So let's talk about, for those of you, there's going to be a deeper dive this afternoon if interchange is new to you, but I'm going to go over sort of the key categories. When you look at these statements, what you're going to see, okay? So let's pull up the first interchange tables. If you open your book, let's go to the book. Let's go to the first page on the interchange table.
You said that was separate?
Yeah, it says interchange. No, it was that one sheet.
It's part of the PDF.
It's a separate PDF though.
It's separate, yeah.
Do you guys want to do a drawing now for business?
Interchange quick chart right there. That one. Yep. And let's do the drawing. Do you have it ready, Mark? Okay. For everyone that was here on time, or do you include the latecomers? And the latecomers.
You're welcome.
But I know Peter was here on time.
Yay!
$250. Okay, so we're going to go through this quick. I think I'm running a little over schedule. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but if you open this page, if this is interchange, and I don't have Discover on here, Discover now is similar. So would you guys say Discover similar to Visa, MasterCard, and all the rates?
A little bit less.
So what you'll see, debit interchange, credit card interchange, there's like 4 categories. And this is kind of bucketed out, but the basic card types. And here are their interchange fees. So this is what the processor's buy rates are. Okay? All of our processors, MPC, First Data, all of our competitors, we all go off the same starting points. Okay? So the processors make, when CoCard goes to First Data to negotiate our contract, we negotiate pennies and things like that and a statement fee above this interchange. That's how they make their money. So we'll dive into this. Let's go to our first statement. Let's go to that workbook. So get your calculators out, just for fun. Let's see how far you can get. First of all, figuring out what they're paying in fees. Okay. What is this first one here? It's okay, it's an auto body check. You go down here. You usually see deposits here. Let's figure out if it's tiered, interchange. What type of program is this? Okay. I see a rate right here. What's a discount rate? In our business, y'all, for those of you new, discount rate kind of means the percentage of the transaction, the markup, the discount rate. So whenever you see discount, here are the 2 rates, discount rate one go up a little bit, Jenny? But here, as an effective rate standpoint, they're doing 15,879, total fees of what? Let's go down and look at their total fees. 337. So what's their effective rate?
2.12.
Ooh. Pretty much
Tom got up early.
Why is it 2.1 on a 20, because their average ticket is what?
1,000.
So the per item fee doesn't come in the mix. So this merchant I'm going up against, okay, the discount rate is 0.20. Sometimes if I don't know what that is, I divide this 1.7 just to double check that that's actually 20 basis points. I'll divide 1.77 by this 895 and come up with 0.0020. So it is 20 basis points. So this competitor I'm looking at right now, okay, they're marking this up 20 basis points here. Where else are they making their money?
It's a transaction fee.
Where it says here, look at item rate 0. Are they paying 0?
No, 18 cents.
No, because look down here.
18 cents.
Okay.
18 and a half cents.
What you see a per item fee here? This isn't part of interchange.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Interchange is right here.
Per item, 10 cents.
So see this 10 cents here? Looks like they're paying 10 cents. Now is that above interchange?
Yep.
Really?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Go
Where do
back
you
up.
see interchange?
Go back up to the top.
Let's go back up
Visa
to the top.
credit.
Okay, no, you see this thing called this underneath over here,
Which one do you want?
you see interchange. Okay?
Yep.
What they don't really show you is the interchange rate. They just say discount rate here, 20 basis points. And look at this, under interchange, there's nothing other than $15.44. So you're not seeing if the interchange is actually accurate, but it is against, Heartland sued Mercury, I think, for padding interchange. So it's very, very few
Who won?
cases have I found these days. I used to think, I wonder if this is right. Okay.
But they can have buckets on them. And
They can have, so
and First Data does that.
I'm rarely busting competitors of padding this interchange. So I'm taking that's correct. I'm thinking, because that's a risk. They could get fined, they could get sued. If you're padding, if you say interchange and you're marking that up, RBS does that sometimes.
First Data does it.
Yeah, that could be a huge fine. Who does?
First Data does.
Some of their directs do, or where it says interchange.
You get a funny bucket in there. Who knows? You know what I mean?
So
Transfers does it?
Transverse does it a little bit.
Dan, some of them.
You have that option.
yeah, 1.74. But it's a transaction fees in there too. But it's one ticket. So
Back now.
So for that item, but the bottom line is there's no way for me to really verify that.
Well, Dan, sometimes you kind of narrow down what category it is. You know what the actual interchange is, so you back it out. And you see some of these statements that look just like
Right.
with your back card, they can't go back in certain categories.
Yes.
So there's more in there, so there is. a lot
That's
of-
why I look at that interchange table on the first page. I might want to do a fact check. Because I see here that there's 3 transactions. And I know interchange in that category is 10 cents. So I take the 30 cents and then I divide 15.44 by 8.85 and then I double check to make sure that the interchange is correct.
But go with the assumption it's correct.
But I go with, because rarely do I bust them. So I go with the assumption it's correct. So that 10 cents is markup down here. So let's scroll that down. So they're making 20 basis points, right? And they're making 10 cents right here, which on a high ticket, who cares?
We're charging 10 cents.
You know? This regular, so the fees that are, these NABU fees, I'm not gonna go deep dive into Richard stuff. I've seen people mark some of these up too, but traditionally these network fees, where you make money at this PCI monthly, the statements, and let's look at this reg fee here, okay? I'm gonna see the PCI monthly is $3.95. It's not bad.
No, it's not.
It's not bad. I can't save them much there. Okay, I got $10 right here on these statement fees, okay? They're making $10 here, and then, this fixed acquirer's fee is pretty normal. Is that like a fan, similar? But, so the fees that we mark up, the reg fee is, especially if you're sending stuff to if you're at First Data, that's a tie. What are they at? No, they're at 350.
Is that like a data wire?
No.
That's according to IRS. 10 feet.
Right. So where we make our money, remember the 5 areas I talked about? Okay? We got the basis points, we got the per item, PCI, statement fee, and this reg fee. Okay? Yes, IRS regulatory fee. So you combine those monthly fees, so their total flat monthly fees are 10 plus 13, 14 bucks. So they're about $17 a month in monthly fees. So how are you going to price, how are you going to compete with this? What are you going to propose back? And how do you come up with the savings? Come up with the savings. Let's propose 10 basis points, 8 cents, $5 statement. Let's see how much savings we come up with on your calculator.
You're better off at 12 and 5.
Let's do it at 10. 10 basis points. Let's do it at 8 cents per transaction and a $5 statement fee. And let's do PCI at $6.85 because that's, I know at transfers it translates to about $6.85. And 0 reg fee. Because I know it'd be $2 at First Data, we have 0 reg fee at transfer. So how much money can we save this merchant? Maybe not enough. They're already at an effective rate of 2.1. But my concept is this in my company. Something is better than nothing. Something, so how much are we going to have to drop our shorts, for lack of better words, to get this merchant to want to switch over to us? So how much savings can we give them at 10 basis points, 8 cents, $5 statement, $6.85 for PCI, and 0 for...
It's $15,000 a month, so 10 basis points is $15.
You must have went to a boarding school.
I did.
And 14 transactions,
Yeah.
so there's a big dollar for it.
Yeah. And how much money are we going to make on this?
$15 and another 40 cents.
Okay.
$22.
Okay, let me hear. How much savings did you come up with? Who has it?
$17.
How much?
Oh, I'm sorry, $20.
You got
20, $240 a year.
Deal?
The big savings.
Okay. So when I go back to merchant, I don't say $20 a month, I say $240 a free dinner for you and your wife at the finest restaurant in town. It's just a joke.
There's only one restaurant, Dan. It's a deli. Lots of dinners.
Okay, let's keep going here. So let's keep going to the next statement here. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your, I'm falling.
That's all the transactions they have.
Little
Yeah,
boy.
correct.
Okay.
14.
That's why they were
Starting
saying
at
it's
14.
I don't know what your areas, some of the other guys' areas. I'm flying now from Evo.
It's all about it.
They're marching up to the assessments, but they just say, oh, I'm at 5 basis.
I've seen that too.
But now I'm
Yeah.
seeing
Right.
dues and assessments.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah, I have seen that. But they call it dues assessment and something else, so they can't get sued.
Yes, the good old boys.
Okay, what are we on here? This the next statement?
Yes.
Okay, effective rate. They're doing 20 grand. Okay, what's their effective rate? Let's scroll down, man. Let's see. Wait, this looks like the same one.
Says AFS.
All right, let's keep going on. Is this a similar? Is this interchange plus?
And it's 5-star collision.
5-star. Okay, let's keep going then. This is very similar.
The next one is another month from them.
Let's go to a different rate.
That's the blank page.
So it's 9.
Oh, okay, here we go. This is a business, they do about they only do 9 grand in business, okay? We're on this, is it a hair salon?
It is a hair salon.
Okay, this hair salon, they did 129 transactions, they did $9,000. This is nice here, look at total charges and fees is 316. 316 divided by this is what? 339. Whoa.
We got a low average.
Okay, well, let's look and see what they're paying. Okay? Write down, try to figure out what it is they're paying.
Makes sense. Purchase is 1,000 words.
How much are they paying in discount for item fee? Let's scroll down here 50%.
What are we doing now? 129? Hair salon. Hair salon.
Okay, stop here.
It's all bikini wax.
This is interesting. Look at the credit card processing charges, how they're dividing this up. They did 6,400 of MasterCard, 2,200 Discover. They have a discount rate up here of 1.98% and an item rate of 5 cents. So the summary shows a discount charge of 184 and item fee of 645. Now, what's this stuff here? So what kind of program is this? Is it?
Scared.
Doesn't look like ERR to me. ERR, you'd see April, you'd see the previous month. This is for this month.
It could be.
No, some do the same month.
Well, if this number, these are what is called surcharges. These are drop downs. So,
It's ERR. It's the equivalent of ERR. It's an Elevon statement.
well, the beauty of this is that there's no debit. You see debit here? They're paying 1.98% on all debit card transactions.
There's a debit discount.
Down here, right?
Yeah.
Right. So look at down here. There's a debit. Where do you see the debit discount?
Third line.
Retail DR. Yeah. So here's retail DR. This is above this.
No, that's taken away from that, and that's a
889 is
minus.
negative, the 1053.
Where do you see the negatives?
On the opposite side, 8.
Right beside the 889.
Next column.
It's
Okay.
there.
Okay. So do give a debit discount. I see that.
They're adding the item fee though. They're discounting $8, $9, and adding $10 of item fee.
So the first thing is trying to figure out what it is what kind of rate program are they on here? Their effective is 3.39.
Their average ticket is $70-something.
It's not a great program, is it?
Yeah.
It is for you.
It is for us. So how do we price this and how much money can we save them? Let's say you want to price this now, you got margin. Let's price this at 30 basis points and 15 cents and $10 statement, and let's see who can come up with how much savings we can give this merchant.
But there's 316.
Some of you beginners are not going to be able to do this.
No.
I want to test some of our veterans in the room.
What's the actual? What's the 3%?
You're going to price this at,
316.
you're going to move this, you're going to move them to an interchange pass-through program, because in essence, you're telling them they're getting screwed, right? So I'm going to move you to interchange pass-through at 30 basis points, 15 cents a transaction, and $10 monthly.
But you gotta calculate each of those down to
They got 30%.
That's why you got the calculator, that's why you have a page there. How are you going to look at this? How are you going to take this and tell the merchant how much money you're going to save?
30%, which is not
You can do it, but you can't do it in 2 minutes. It's gonna take a little bit.
I bet you there's a couple people here that can't.
You have to know the card mix for this average ticket and this MCC.
What I do is I take this amount and I divide it by this, and what you're gonna find here, because I think I did this statement, this is actually one of mine. If you take this amount, okay, and divide it by this, you come up with a rate. And if you do it in each one, what you're gonna see is that the surcharge, there's gonna be mid-qual and there's gonna be a non-qual. Okay, so this is a tiered program. If you divide it up, you're gonna see this basis points are all gonna come into basically two categories. Mid-qualification rate, above this, so I take that plus the 198.
Really?
Oh, I got here late.
You know, I would also look at the debit. I mean, it's 30%
So
debit.
anyways, what I do on this, I do quick calculations and I divide this by this and I see a pattern. And these markups usually match. Okay, so then,
It's downgrading, like rewards one comes up as 1.2%.
Exactly.
And so when you know the rewards one is at 1.65, the 1.2 plus the 1.98 is gonna give you 3.18.
That's
So
right.
That's where you find the margin.
that's the non-qual. That's what you do. So you divide this and you come up and you add it to 1.8. So I know on a rewards card, they're paying 3.2%. Basically and then you're gonna have a mid-qual on a debit, you're gonna come up with a debit rate. So now I know that if you take that divided by that, whether it's a minus whatever, plus this, that's the rate for debit they're paying currently. So I know what interchange plus 30 basis points is. If you look at your interchange chart, you add your 30 basis points, that's the margin, that's the savings you're gonna be able to give them. So let's see if there's anybody in the room that could come up with a savings at 30 basis.
It's around 158.
158 a month, at 30 basis points and 15 cents. Now I created an Excel spreadsheet. Can you pull up where I take tiered and interchange? This is really simple, folks. It's my tiered pricing sheet.
A negative.
I can send this to folks too. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
So,
Yeah.
so that's 3%. So go back here, and what do we have for interchange for percent reward?
So I created in my office, I get these statements all the time.
What did you say, debit?
I'm just going to show you a simple thing, and you can plug it in here, Jenny, when we get it up. And this is what I send to the merchant, because I present the merchant with something in writing, okay? A proposal, like an analysis, okay? And somebody has different tools here. So I created, and actually, this is my old one, because when I hit send, there's actually a new updated one with debit. So this is what I proposal for, I put your name, this populates, okay? So for debit, Brandon, what you come up with for debit, rate?
I just aggregated them all really fast.
Well, put amount here, let's do this, like put an amount here of, give me amount of debit they have. 2,960, okay, let's just punch that in there. No, right here under amount. And what rate are they paying for debit? Who can figure that out?
3%.
So what's their rate? 1.68. 1.68? Well, that's under.
They already charged with 190.
Yeah, I know.
Adjustment in there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Let's do it under qualified right there.
62.47.
Now, this is my old one. I have a new one here that says regulated debit, okay? What percentage of debit is regulated these days?
Small.
More like 80%. 89%.
Yeah.
So, and what is regulated debit interchange?
5 basis.
5 basis points and 22 cents. Okay, but let's just do regular debit for discussion's sake, since I don't have my new updated sheet here. Okay, put 1.68 there, because that's what we did. We divided the debit. I'm going to put 1.68 here. This is what they're paying, okay? Now, up here, I'm going to put 30 basis points, my markup. This is where I put my markup, right here. 30 basis points. 0.00, let's go 0.003. Yep. Now watch these change. So that populates what I'm comparing to. So what I did to come up with my comparisons, I did the same thing. I just took all the interchange buckets and came up with, like, I know signature cards and reward cards on interchange, even though I'm switching them to an interchange program, I know basically what the new 30 basis points in that category is going to be for debit, okay? So I know on a qualified debit with 30 basis points is 1.45, and I also included dues and assessments that we'll talk about. So this is how I do it. So I'm saving them $42 just on debit at 30 basis points. So I'm not going to go into detail here, but so keep scrolling down. So I do this for every card type. So I go down on the mid-qual, Visa, and it just I put 30 basis. So everything is populated. Then I put in the miscellaneous fees, the item fees, okay? And at the end, I come up with the savings. This is what I present the merchant. This is what I email them over when I come to a tiered program like that. So everyone should have something like this.
You mean you send the whole spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yeah. They can't read it anyway.
Right, they go right to the bottom.
I mean, in today's world, would you rather keep them on tier? You have tier merchants?
No, because the guy.
I don't, because number one thing I don't like is losing merchants. It's hard enough to get them. It's tough enough to lose them.
But at 30 basis points, unless it's just an example, that's...
Somebody's going to come in and offer them pass-through pricing. It's going to beat me. And so I tend to go differently. I'm not telling you how you do it. You might want to keep them on tier and just lower their tier prices.
And on that first example with that auto body shop where you have the 8 cents item rate, are you thinking about, well, what is my cost here, and is it worth this merchant to make 15?
I don't. I look at it as what am I going to have to save that merchant in order for them to switch over to me? I don't care if I'm making 1 penny, because in my world something is better than nothing.
Yes.
So I estimate, I know at a large restaurant that does $50,000 a month, saving them $20 isn't going to excite them. I got to save them over 100. So I do my pricing based on what I think is going to get that merchant to want to move their business over to me, regardless of my margin. Because even if I make $5, it's better than nothing.
And I totally agree to that point. I'll take a statement and analyze and break it down so I know what my exact cost is, exactly what that merchant's paying, and somewhere in between I figure out where that deal is. So,
right. So my point is, I'll send this Excel spreadsheet to you guys similar if you don't have anything, and you can do it and we can play around with it. We have plenty of help here, but let's go back to the statement. Let's go to the next statement in the book. Yeah.
Well, can I just want, can I ask one question here? I mean, is this ERR or is this tiers?
It's hard to say.
It's tiered.
It's tiered, but it's like 6 or 9 tiers. Does that make sense, Hunter?
No, because if you do the math here, they'll all fall into, those surcharges will all fall into 3 categories.
Okay.
That was a tiered program. Next statement, tell me what kind of program it is. Is it interchange plus, or is it tiered?
Interchange.
Okay.
It's a goofy interchange. No,
This is a good one because it shows the interchange. Let's go. Where's the markup on this one? Where do you see markup on this? Where is the markup? Authorization fees here. So this is pretty cut and dry. I love this because I'm looking at the interchange. This looks right, and I always size something up like just to double check. Mirrored 3, I know it's 1, 5, 8, and 10, so I know they're not padding interchange up here. Authorization fees. Okay, so now I have to take this $12.80 because they're not showing me how much they're charging.
Sure they are, on the left.
Where? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. Amex 10.
These MasterCard is 10. At the bottom, 42 easier.
Oh, down here.
Yeah.
Authorization. So they're paying how much for item?
10 cents.
10 cents. Okay, is that it? What else are they, where else are we making money?
Statement fee.
So, here's something where somebody said, I'm gonna get this merchant, but there's no basis points markup. Do you see basis points markup anywhere?
No, I just see some silly fees.
So, here's a competitor of mine that said, listen, I'm gonna offer you 0, I'm not gonna straight interchange. And I'm just gonna make 10 cents, and I'm gonna make something else here on the monthly fee. How much are, $24?
$24.
You got a statement of 7?
So which of these miscellaneous fees
gonna have some.
Arbitrary.
Yeah.
So the state, remember we talked about the statement? SAQ not on file, is that the 10 not on file?
That's not PCI non-compliance.
SAQ is
Self-assessment question.
Oh, self-assessment, that's the PCI non-qual. Okay, so
Then he's got a bogus thing, PAI.
then he has a bogus thing.
$300 a year.
Whenever I see something like PAI secure, that's like a breach insurance or something maybe?
Or service.
Or a service fee. So this salesperson who has this account, they're making 10 cents per transaction. Now, they had 4,219 transactions. Okay? 4,219. And so they have monthly fees of 24, 30, 40, about $40 in monthly fees. How much money could we save this person by going to
6
7
cents. Yeah, 6 cents. For it.
Let's say we want to go back at 7 cents.
$126.
It's not 126. It's $1,400 a year.
A lot of people may look at this and say, there's no markup here.
Oh,
This
that's
is
good
10 cents. But we can make money on this deal. We can save them over $100 a month by just going to 8 cents, 7 cents.
I did it differently, and I said, well, I'll knock it down to 5 cents a transaction, and I'm still gonna make $300 a month, and I'm saving them $3,600 a year.
Right, right. So that's the beauty of CoCard, is we can come into a statement like this, and I don't see any, I see straight interchange. All I see here is this 10 cents, and I see some monthly fees here with our monthly fees. If I do this at $5 and a RPCI and whatever, and our reg fee at 2, the price is at 8, I go back there with a savings of over $100 a month.
Since I'm a really newbie,
Yeah.
the transaction fees, you're getting all of that, the processing companies aren't charging anything for a transaction fee?
Up here they are, 10 cents. The interchange is always a percentage and 10 cents a transaction.
Okay.
So if I'm a merchant, I'm paying 20.
Okay.
I'm paying actually 20 cents.
10 cents there.
What's the effective rate on this company? What are they paying effectively?
2.01.
So when you look at it at 2.01, you're going, holy crap, right? Now how much, now I'm not going to everyone's buy rates here, but traditionally, how much are you gonna make on this account at $7?
At 7 cents?
Yeah.
You're gonna make probably $170. 5 cents a transaction times
Minus
4.
your buy rate and stuff.
Well, but okay, so call it 4 cents times
We're not
4.
doing that, but I'm just saying, it's better than
4
nothing.
4 cents times
My point is,
400.
folks, I don't care what your buy rates are,
4,000.
whatever, it's better.
4,000.
Something's better than nothing. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up here.
Hey Dan, can I add 2 cents? I mean, when I run into people and you're technical, Hunter's technical, you guys get it. And then what happens a lot of times, I'll start talking to a merchant and I just see the eyes glaze over. So I always say a picture was worth 1,000 words. Can I write it? So what I'll do is I'll draw a quick picture. So a 3-tiered system, qualified, mid, not, I'm sorry, mid, and then there's not, and then I go, here's what you're gonna pay, interchange. And they get this.
Yeah.
They don't get the rest of it. And you guys who are really newbie,
I like to
really simple.
educate the merchant on how money's made in credit card.
Correct. So I mean, for example, we make our money here, and then NPC, we didn't have a mid-qual. We went right to there. We used to make a killing. Here, a really good example, and I always use the automotive mechanic scenario. I look in the book says it takes me 3 hours working on your car, but it takes me 2 hours. That's where I make my money. So whatever interchange you get, that's what you're gonna pay. So when they call me up and go, oh, you're ripping me off, dude, you're paying cost. And then if I go in there and I do 7 cents and 7 basis points, and it's a 30,000 merchant, I'm making $7 per $10,000. They don't really bitch and moan. Now you don't want to use an equation when it's $500,000 a month, but on a smaller merchant, and they have a tendency to back off and don't focus on the 7 cents. But this picture, they get that really quickly. They're not going to get this interchange that we've all discussed and you guys are getting on. But those are the pictures. And I just pull over the proposal or the app and write that on there. That usually sells them really easily and they get it very quickly.
I appreciate that. Good input.
What is OB?
Now, so anyways, I just did this session in an hour that I usually spend a day. I spend a day on this with somebody who comes to work for me. We didn't get a chance to go through the whole book, but I wanted you to have this book when you go back, for some of you new people, when you go back, go through, there's other things on here, go through some practices, and if you want some chart, again, the Pegasus tool should be out in the next month or so. That's gonna be a great tool, Brad.
I'm gonna need your spreadsheet.
I'll email it over to you. Yep.
Send it out to everybody? No.
Sure, I'll send it out to Jenny and she can get it. It might need some updating. I might have somebody update with the new, I need to add debit regulated and some other stuff. Discover commercial, we'll have their rates. I'll put Discover on the new sheet too. Everyone has that. And the other thing I didn't touch base on, folks, can you pull up Amex real quick here, Jenny? That Amex thing I have? In our business, it used to be Amex was separate. A couple years ago, there's a thing called Amex Acquiring, they say Opt Blue. Now, you can make money, for the first time, we can make money on Amex. So when I price something out at 30 basis points, I make 30 basis points now on Amex. And there's also a cost savings now, when you look at a statement, they could be being charged up to 75 basis points above interchange. So there's a way to save them money and do a calculations on American Express. So American Express has an interchange. I don't know if we can blow this up, Hunter. Jenny, do you know how to blow this up a little bit?
You confused Jenny with Hunter?
No, Hunter knew how to do it. So here, the American Express,
Just scroll down in that.
it's not called interchange, but basically in our world, here's restaurant tier, here's the,
Yeah, a little smaller.
yeah, let's do a little bit smaller.
At the bottom, do you see?
Down at the bottom, there's a little slide scale.
There we go. So for a restaurant tier 1, in their world, tier 1 means $25 or under. It's 1.85 and 10 cents. Okay, so this is the American Express. So when you get, now you're going to see some American Express stuff. You'll be able to see down here, keep going down. These are like dues and assessments down here. Are right here, assessments here, swipe fee. This is old. Our system processing fee right now is different. It's 10. It's not 40 cents. You get the pricing, but there is a separate interchange for American Express now for the first time for all you. If you're newer to the business, we didn't used to have this. We couldn't mark it up.
We had one price.
It's just something you just did on the side.
And we make money on it.
And we make money on American Express. More importantly, finally. So again, I could go on. We could go on to this all day, but I think I just wanted to touch base for an hour and sort of give some of the newer people, expose them to how to read some of these statements. The great thing about CoCard is you can even send a statement to somebody you know and say, hey, can you help me out with this? This is a big account for us. We need to come back with the savings. So we have so much help available. And we're creating the tools to do it.
All right, well, when I come back.
Thanks for listening. That's all I got, folks.